I was arranging fresh lilies in the kitchen vase when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but something made me answer. A cheerful woman's voice filled my ear. "Hello, is this Mrs. Patricia Henley? I'm calling about the property listing for 1247 Oakwood Drive." My heart stopped. That was my address. My home. The house I'd lived in for 32 years. I gripped the counter, confusion flooding through me. "I'm sorry," I managed, "but there must be some mistake. This house isn't for sale." The woman paused, then said carefully, "According to the listing agent, the owner is eager to close quickly. The asking price is quite reasonable. $480,000. May I schedule a viewing?" My knees buckled. Someone was trying to sell my home without my knowledge. Before I could respond, she added, "The listing went live yesterday. Your son, Daniel Henley, is listed as the primary contact." The room spun. Daniel. My own son. I thanked the woman and ended the call, my hands trembling. Daniel had always been ambitious, maybe too ambitious. After his father passed 5 years ago, he'd become increasingly interested in my estate planning, as he called it. He'd encouraged me to update my will, suggested I consider assisted living, and hinted that this big old house was too much for me alone. I'd brushed off his concerns, insisting I was perfectly capable at 63. But this was betrayal on a level I couldn't comprehend. I pulled up the real estate website she'd mentioned and typed in my address. There it was. My Victorian-style home with its wraparound porch and maple trees, photographed beautifully in the morning light. The description read, "Charming family home, motivated seller, price to move." 8 interior photos showed rooms I recognized instantly. How had he gotten inside to photograph everything? Then I remembered Daniel had a key. "For emergencies," I'd said when I gave it to him. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the listing. The price, $480,000, was insultingly low. This house was worth at least $650,000, possibly more given the recent neighborhood boom. Daniel knew that. We'd discussed property values just last month when the Richardsons' house sold for $680,000. He was deliberately underpricing it, probably hoping for a quick sale before I noticed. My chest tightened with a familiar ache. Daniel had always been complicated. Even as a child, he'd been calculating, always working angles. His father used to say he'd make a great businessman someday. And he had, running a successful investment firm downtown. But somewhere along the way, success had twisted into greed. I'd noticed it after his divorce 2 years ago, when his ex-wife got the waterfront condo and half his portfolio. He'd been bitter, constantly complaining about money despite his 6-figure salary. Now apparently he'd set his sights on my assets. I needed proof before confronting him. I called my neighbor Helen, who'd lived across the street for 20 years. "Helen, have you noticed anyone taking photos of my house lately?" There was a pause. "Actually, yes. Last Tuesday, a man with a camera was walking around your property. I assumed you'd hired someone for insurance photos or something." He had a key, let himself right in through the front door. My stomach turned. Tuesday was my bridge club day, when I was reliably out of the house for 3 hours. Daniel knew my schedule. He'd planned this carefully. Helen continued. "Patricia, is everything all right? You sound upset." I forced steadiness into my voice. "Everything's fine. Just checking on something." After hanging up, I sat in silence. My son had entered my home without permission, photographed my private spaces, and listed my property for sale. The violation felt physical, like he'd reached into my chest and squeezed my heart. That evening, I drove to Daniel's apartment downtown, a sleek high-rise overlooking the harbor. He seemed surprised when he opened the door. His tie loosened after a long workday. "Mom, what are you doing here?" His smile was bright, practiced. I pushed past him into the marble-floored entryway. "We need to talk. Now." His expression flickered, just for a second, before settling back into concern. "Of course. Is everything okay?" You seem agitated. I turned to face him, my anger barely contained. Why is my house listed for sale? His face went blank, then confused. What? Mom, what are you talking about? The performance was impressive. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed him. Don't lie to me, Daniel. I received a call today from a potential buyer. My home is on the market, with you listed as the contact. 8 interior photos, taken last Tuesday while I was at Bridge Club. His jaw tightened. For a moment we just stared at each other. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, his facade cracking. Okay, look, can explain. I was gonna talk to you about this, I wanted to have everything arranged first. My voice was ice. Arranged? You mean you wanted to sell my house without my knowledge or consent? He stepped closer, hands raised placatingly. It's not like that. Mom, I'm trying to help you. That house is too big, too expensive to maintain. You're all alone there. I found a beautiful assisted living community with. I don't need assisted living. My shout echoed off his expensive walls. I'm 63 years old, in perfect health, and perfectly capable of managing my own home. Daniel's expression hardened. Are you though? Dad's been gone for 5 years. You're living in the past, rattling around in that old house like a ghost. It's depressing, Mom. His words stung, but I wouldn't let him see it. That's my decision to make, not yours. He sighed, adopting a patient tone that made my blood boil. I have power of attorney, remember? We set that up after Dad died, in case you ever needed help with financial decisions. I stared at him, incredulous. Power of attorney doesn't give you the right to sell my house. It's for emergencies, for if I'm incapacitated. I'm standing right here, Daniel. I'm fine. He shrugged. The housing market is hot right now. If we wait, values might drop. I'm thinking of your future, your retirement security. The proceeds from the sale, invested properly, could generate substantial income. You could live comfortably, stress-free, without worrying about property taxes, maintenance, utilities. Stop. I held up a hand. Just stop. This isn't about my welfare. This is about money. Your money. His face flushed. That's not fair. I'm your only child. Eventually that house will be mine anyway. I'm just trying to help us both plan ahead. The truth hung between us, ugly and undeniable. Let me be clear, I said slowly. You will remove that listing immediately. You will never ever enter my home without my explicit permission again. And first thing Monday morning, I'm visiting my lawyer to revoke your power of attorney. Daniel's expression turned cold. You're making a mistake. You're not thinking clearly about your future. I moved toward the door. My future is my own to decide. You've overstepped, Daniel. Badly. As I reached for the handle, he called out, Mom, wait. Please. Can we just talk about this rationally? Turned back. His face had softened, vulnerability creeping in. For a moment, I saw the boy he used to be, the child who'd climb into my lap after a nightmare. But that boy was gone, replaced by this stranger who'd betray me for money. There's nothing to talk about, I said quietly and left. Sleep evaded me that night. I lay in my bedroom, the same room I'd shared with my husband for 27 years, and stared at the ceiling. Robert would have been devastated by Daniel's actions. He'd always believed our son was better than this. Ambitious, yes, but ethical. Driven, but with boundaries. Had I missed the signs? Robert died suddenly of a heart attack, leaving me grieving and vulnerable. Daniel had stepped up immediately, handling funeral arrangements, helping with paperwork, taking charge. I'd been grateful then. Maybe too grateful. Maybe I'd given him too much control, let him believe my life was his to manage. At 63, I wasn't elderly or infirm. I walked 3 miles every morning, volunteered at the library twice a week, and managed my finances carefully. I'd been a CPA before retiring, for heaven's sake. I knew how to handle money. Daniel treated me like I was feeble, incompetent, like I was already gone. Monday morning, I sat in attorney Gloria Martinez's office, explaining the situation. She listened carefully, taking notes. Mrs. Henley, I'm glad you came in. What your son did was absolutely improper. A power of attorney doesn't grant authority to sell property without the principal's consent, especially when that principal is fully competent. She pulled out documents. We'll revoke the existing POA immediately. I'll also draft a formal cease and desist letter to the real estate agency, informing them the listing was unauthorized. If they don't remove it within 24 hours, we can pursue legal action. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. I feel so foolish for trusting him with that power. Gloria's expression was kind. Family law cases are always the hardest, but you're taking the right steps. I'd also recommend changing your locks, just to be safe. And we should review your will. The will. Another thing Daniel had been pressuring me about. Gloria retrieved another file. According to my records, your current will leaves everything to Daniel. Given recent events, you might want to reconsider. I nodded slowly. I've been thinking about that. I have a younger sister, Rebecca, in Colorado. We're close. And there are charities I care about. The library, the women's shelter, the community theater. They could all use support. She smiled. We can structure it however you like. My suggestion. Create a trust with specific distributions. That way, even if Daniel contests the will, your wishes are protected. Over the next hour we redesigned my estate plan. The house would go into a trust to be sold upon my death with proceeds split between Rebecca, my favorite charities. And yes, Daniel would still receive a portion. But not everything. Not the control he'd presumed was his birthright. When I left Gloria's office, I felt lighter than I had in days. I was reclaiming my life, my autonomy. That afternoon, a locksmith changed every lock on my house. The old keys, including Daniel's copy, were now useless. I felt safer immediately. As the locksmith finished, my phone rang. Daniel. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, another call. Then a text. Mom, we need to talk. Please. I deleted it. 3 more calls came throughout the evening, each going unanswered. Finally, a longer text appeared. I'm sorry if I upset you. I was only trying to help. Can we please meet and discuss this like adults? I'm worried about you. The manipulation was transparent, framing his betrayal as concern, positioning me as the unreasonable one. I'd seen this pattern before, in smaller ways. When he convinced me to invest in his friend's startup that failed, losing me $15,000. When he borrowed my car and returned it with a cracked windshield, blaming it on a mystery parking lot incident. Always, it was never quite his fault. Wednesday brought another call from the real estate agent. Mrs. Henley. This is Shanice Webb. I received a letter from your attorney regarding the Oakwood Drive listing. I want to sincerely apologize. Your son presented documentation that appeared legitimate, and I failed to verify ownership directly with you. The listing has been removed, and I've reported this internally. I appreciated her honesty. Thank you, Ms. Webb. I know this puts you in a difficult position. She sighed. Honestly, this isn't the first time I've seen family members try to sell a parent's property prematurely. It's disturbing how common it is. If you ever do decide to sell legitimately, please call me directly. I'll make sure everything is handled properly. After hanging up, I felt validated. Even a stranger could see how wrong Daniel's actions were. Yet he still saw himself as the victim, the misunderstood helper. The phone rang again. Daniel. This time I answered. Mom. His relief was palpable. Thank God. I've been so worried. Why haven't you been answering? Kept my voice level. Because I have nothing to say to you, Daniel. Silence. Then carefully. Look, I know you're upset. I handled this badly. But my intentions were good. You have to believe that. I sat down, suddenly exhausted. Your intentions don't matter. Your actions do. You violated my trust, my home, my autonomy. You treated me like I was already dead. That's not, Mom, that's not fair. I would never. You listed my house for sale without telling me, I interrupted. You entered my home without permission. You tried to use legal documents as weapons against me. How else should I interpret that? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Harder. Fine. You want to know the truth. Yes, I need money. The divorce destroyed me financially. Alimony, legal fees. I'm drowning. That house is just sitting there, appreciating while I'm struggling. His confession stunned me into silence. Finally, he continued. I thought if we sold it now, invested the money properly, we'd both benefit. You'd be secure, and I'd have breathing room. Made sense. It was practical. My throat tightened. So this was never about my welfare. It was about your financial problems. It was about both. Frustration edged his voice. Why can't it be both? You don't need that big house. The money could help us both. Why is that so wrong? Closed my eyes. Because it's mine, Daniel. My home, my assets, my decisions. You don't get to decide what I need or don't need. The fact that you can't see how deeply wrong this is, that frightens me. He scoffed. Frightens you? I'm your son. I've always taken care of you. After Dad died, who handled everything? Me. Who makes sure you're okay, checks on you, helps with your taxes? Me. And this is the thanks I get. The manipulation was breathtaking. You're twisting everything, I said quietly. Yes, you helped after your father died. I appreciated that. But that doesn't give you ownership over my life. And for the record, I haven't needed help with taxes in 3 years. I'm perfectly capable. He laughed bitterly. Right. Perfectly capable. That's why you still write checks instead of using online banking. That's why you don't understand investment portfolios or market trends. You're living in the past, Mom. His words cut deep, hitting insecurities I hadn't fully acknowledged. I was older, less tech-savvy than his generation. But that didn't make me incompetent. I'm ending this conversation, I said. Don't contact me again until you're ready to genuinely apologize. Not manipulate, not justify, apologize. Mom, I hung up. My hands shook as I set down the phone. For the first time, I wondered if my relationship with my son could be repaired. Or if it was already broken beyond fixing. Weeks passed. Daniel sent occasional texts. Thinking of you. Hope you're well, but never the apology I demanded. I threw myself into activities. Volunteering more hours at the library, joining a book club, taking a watercolor painting class. Life without Daniel's presence was quieter, but also freer. I hadn't realized how much anxiety he'd generated. Always pushing, suggesting, managing. One morning, Helen knocked on my door with fresh muffins and concern. Patricia, I don't want to pry, but I haven't seen Daniel's car around lately. Is everything all right between you two? I invited her in and over coffee I told her everything. Her reaction was immediate outrage. He did what? That's unconscionable. Patricia, I'm so sorry. No wonder you've seemed stressed. Felt good to share the burden. Helen's validation reminded me I wasn't overreacting. Daniel's actions had been serious, harmful, wrong. I wasn't being dramatic or unforgiving. I was being appropriately angry. A month after the confrontation, I received a certified letter. The return address was Daniel's law firm. My heart sank. Inside was a formal document. Daniel was challenging my competency, requesting a court-appointed evaluation to determine if I was capable of managing my own affairs. I couldn't breathe. He was actually doing this. Trying to have me declared incompetent so he could seize control of my assets. The letter cited concerning behavior, including paranoid accusations, social isolation, and refusal of family assistance. Every phrase was carefully crafted to paint me as unstable. Called Gloria immediately. She was furious. This is retaliation, pure and simple. Don't worry, we'll fight this aggressively. You'll need to undergo a competency evaluation, but given your cognitive health, I'm confident you'll pass easily. This is going to backfire on him spectacularly. But the damage was already done. The doubt was planted. What if the evaluator saw an older woman living alone and assumed frailty? What if Daniel's lies gained traction? The competency evaluation took place in a sterile medical office. A psychiatrist named Dr. Patel asked me dozens of questions. Current events, math problems, memory tests. She observed my speech patterns, my reasoning, my emotional state. I tried to stay calm, but anger simmered beneath my composure. "Mrs. Henley," she said finally, "I need to ask about your relationship with your son. Can you tell me what happened?" I explained everything, keeping my voice steady. The unauthorized listing, the power of attorney abuse, his retaliatory lawsuit. She took notes, her expression neutral. "And how do you feel about this conflict?" "Betrayed," I said honestly. "Hurt, angry. But I'm not confused or incompetent. I'm a woman defending her autonomy against someone who's trying to take it away." Dr. Patel nodded slowly. "I appreciate your candor. I'll have my report ready within a week." As I left, I felt cautiously hopeful. I'd presented myself well, answered everything correctly. But the uncertainty gnawed at me. Dr. Patel's report arrived via Gloria's office. I held my breath as she read the key findings aloud. The patient demonstrates full cognitive capacity, excellent memory, appropriate emotional responses, and clear understanding of complex financial matters. No evidence of diminished capacity, confusion, or impairment. In my professional opinion, Mrs. Patricia Henley is entirely competent to manage her own affairs. The petition appears to be motivated by family conflict, rather than genuine concern for the patient's welfare. Relief crashed over me like a wave. Gloria smiled. "Congratulations. Not only did you pass, the report specifically calls out Daniel's motives as questionable. This will be devastating for his case." The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Daniel would have to face a judge and explain why he tried to have his competent mother declared incompetent. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost, but not quite. He'd chosen this path, weaponizing the legal system against his own mother. Now he'd face the consequences. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined, wood-paneled and formal. Daniel sat with his attorney, a sharp-looking woman in a gray suit. He wouldn't meet my eyes. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, reviewed the documents carefully before speaking. "Mr. Henley, I've read Dr. Patel's evaluation. Your mother is clearly competent. Can you explain why you brought this petition?" Daniel's attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client was genuinely concerned about his mother's welfare. After she made erratic decisions, including revoking a power of attorney that was designed to protect her." "Stop!" The judge's voice was sharp. "I've also read the attorney's report about the unauthorized property listing. Mr. Henley, did you attempt to sell your mother's house without her knowledge?" Daniel stood, his face flushed. "Your Honor, I was trying to help her plan for the future. The house is too large, too expensive." "That's not what I asked," the judge interrupted. "Did you or did you not list her property for sale without her consent?" Daniel's shoulders sagged. "Yes, but I had power of attorney." "I thought." "You thought wrong," the judge said coldly. "Power of attorney does not grant you ownership or unilateral decision-making authority when the principal is competent. You abused that legal instrument, Mr. Henley. And when your mother rightfully revoked it, you retaliated with this spurious competency challenge." She flipped through more papers. "According to Dr. Patel's report, your mother is in excellent cognitive health. Your petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to pay your mother's legal fees associated with defending against this baseless claim. This court does not look kindly on family members weaponizing the legal system for financial gain." Daniel's face went white. His attorney tried to speak, but the judge waved her off. "We're done here. Mrs. Henley, you're free to go. I'm sorry you had to endure this." As I stood to leave, I finally looked at Daniel. He stared back, something broken in his eyes. Outside the courthouse, Gloria shook my hand warmly. "You won, Patricia." Decisively. Daniel will have to pay approximately $8,000 in legal fees, and this ruling will be on record. If he ever tries something like this again, judges will see this history. I nodded, feeling numb. Thank you for everything. As I walked to my car, I heard footsteps behind me. Mom, please, wait. Turned. Daniel stood a few feet away, looking defeated. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I'm so sorry. I was desperate and I made terrible choices. I convinced myself I was helping, but really I was selfish. I put my needs above yours. Above everything. Tears streamed down his face. For the first time in months, he looked genuinely remorseful. I don't expect you to forgive me, he continued. I just need you to know I see it now. How badly I hurt you. How wrong I was. I stood there, my heart breaking all over again. Daniel, I said slowly, I appreciate the apology. But words aren't enough. You didn't just hurt me. You violated my trust in the deepest way possible. You tried to take my home, my independence, my dignity. He nodded miserably. I know. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Therapy, family counseling, whatever you need. Decide. I need time. Ace. I need to rebuild my sense of security, and I can't do that with you in my life right now. Maybe someday we can repair this. But not today. His face crumpled, but he didn't argue. I understand. We'll wait. However long it takes. He walked away, shoulders bent under the weight of his mistakes. I watched him go, feeling sad but also strangely free. I stood up for myself. Good one. As I drove home, the spring sun warming my face through the windshield, I thought about the future. My house, my choices, my life. All still mine. 6 months have passed since the courthouse. I've made changes. New locks, updated security system, a revised will that reflects my true values. Rebecca visited last month, and we laughed until we cried, making up for lost time. The library named me Volunteer of the Year. My watercolor paintings now hang in a local cafe. Daniel sends occasional emails, brief, respectful updates on his life. I respond sometimes, keeping things cordial but distant. Forgiveness might come eventually, but trust takes longer to rebuild. I've learned I'm stronger than I thought. At 63, I'm not winding down. I'm just getting started. My home remains mine, filled with memories and possibilities. Every morning, I sit on my wraparound porch with coffee, watching the neighborhood wake up. Helen waves from across the street. The maple trees rustle in the breeze. And I smile, knowing I fought for this peace and won. Nobody gets to decide my future but me. Not my son, not society's expectations, not anyone. This is my house, my life, my story. And it's far from over.